40 years ago, Dan Ackroyd brought a movie to the table. And with some magic for some other writers, we got an all-time classic. As today, we are talking about 1984's Ghostbusters. Let's go.
Your host, Parker, Dan, and Angela slice and dice their way through the good.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
The bad.
You brought the devil!
There's a devil inside everyone.
And the ugly movies you love.
And you can't piss on hospitality. I won't allow it!
Hold your favorite films and franchises tight, because they aren't safe. In fact, it's already too late. It's time to dissect that film.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Dissect That Film, a podcast that dissects the good, the bad, and the ugly of cinema. I am your host, Brett Parker. Joining me, as always, my wonderful co-hosts, Dan and Angela of DNA Gaming.
Hello.
What is going on, you two?
Hello.
Hello.
It's morning. I mean,
it's sometime. It's
It's
sometime.
early
It's a time of day that is not usually when we record, so you might hear some noises that you've never heard on recording before. But you know what? We're just going to go with the flow.
Yep.
Thank you all for being here and hanging out with us today, as today we are talking about a movie that I don't think anyone has ever seen before. This is a hidden gem. This is an indie film. No, I'm just kidding. We're talking about Ghostbusters, everybody. Possibly one of the most iconic films ever put to screen. And it's finally time to talk about it. And one of the reasonings behind wanting to talk about this movie is the fact that it just passed, but it's 40th anniversary this year. So a big milestone. Dan's favorite thing, anniversary episodes. He loves it.
you know me. I'm here for those anniversaries.
Gotta get them anniversaries, baby. No, I mean, we at some point we were going to be talking about Ghostbusters. This isn't the first time that we have covered a Ghostbusters movie on this show. A couple years ago, we sat down to talk about Ghostbusters from 2016, the reboot, remake, whatever you want to classify it as. And it was a very spicy episode. The craziest thing, everybody, and I think a lot of people's complaints are like, people who don't like Ghostbusters 2016 is because of the ladies.
Yes.
It's crazy that that's not true, at least for us. And also, the woman of this show is the one who hated it the most of anyone here. So,
Yep.
take that.
Yeah. So enough of your sexist claims.
She just threw something. I don't know what it was.
I threw my notebook last time.
Yeah, because
Oh,
Chris Hemsworth was fucking terrible in that movie too.
Oh God. You want to know what movie that he's not terrible in? It's I loved his performance in it. Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. His performance is so much fun to watch, but that's another time. But yeah, we're back. We're talking about Ghostbusters, the original, the movie that started it all for this now 40-year-old franchise. We got a new one this year with Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, which I do want to talk a little bit about before we get into everything else. But you know what we do here? We talk about our history with the movie at hand. So, Angela, you did not like Ghostbusters 2016. You despised it. You loathed it.
It was not even a movie for me.
This note, listen, we recommend you go back and listen to that episode. It is one of my favorite episodes just because it is the episode that I've never seen Angela this mad when talking about a movie. And there has been one episode where they didn't even watch a whole movie that we were covering on the show. So the fact is, she was that angry about this movie. I loved every minute of it. Because usually it's me who's fiery or Dan is fiery, and Angela, she brings it sometimes, but this was like from beginning to end, it was like, holy shit, strap in, Angela's going. So Angela, what's your history with Ghostbusters, the original?
I'm trying. I don't know how old I was for certain. But I do know that my cousin was watching it in his room, and I walked by the door, and all I see is I'm trying to think of how far in the movie it was. I'm pretty sure it was toward the end, Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. And I was just enamored and stood at his door for the remainder of the movie. And I was like, what is this? And I don't know if I ever even watched the whole movie after that. Like, not up until now, but I had to have watched it on TV. Caught it on TV at some point in time. When? No clue. But I have watched it several times.
Hit the bricks,
Sorry,
motherfucker.
sorry, I got there's just children crying and running around behind me.
Ah, you're good.
You have ghosts over there.
Yeah, I was listening. Don't worry, I was listening to what you were saying. Dan.
I watched this at some point when I was a kid. I don't remember. That's about it.
All right.
I played the NES game with the looping theme song. Like, it's really annoying after a while. It's just really, I don't think it's as bad as people say.
I hate when games did that.
But just like, I don't know, like 15-minute bursts. But like, I don't know like how good. Like, I know people bitch about like it's being a shitty game. But anyway, it was that my real exposure to Ghostbusters was the real Ghostbusters animated television show. That was most of my exposures to Ghostbusters growing up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the same page as you to a degree. I grew up watching the shit out of the first two Ghostbusters. Like, and as a kid, you don't really pick up on the varying differences between the first two, because of, and we're going to talk more about it when we cover Ghostbusters 2. But like Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2, they're very different, like tonally, what they could do in the movies. But I remember renting it from my local Hollywood Video and just watching it on repeat because I was just so enamored with the amazing effects and the comedy is spot on, like it's perfect, and just the characters themselves, just how we'll talk about how some aren't very as likable as I remember them being, but most of the characters are super likable. I actually saw this after seeing Alien, which is weird. So I remember seeing Sigourney Weaver going, "Oh my god, that's Ripley from Alien." That's cool. But yeah, this is a movie that if it's on TV, if it is on a streaming service and I'm bored and I don't know what to watch, this movie is probably going to be on my TV. My son wants to watch it all the damn time. He's always asking about Ghostbusters because I've watched it like probably 3 or 4 times already this year. Because it's just such an easy movie to throw on and just get sucked into. I remember getting COVID for the first time, and I was
because
stuck,
of Ghostbusters.
Because of Ghostbusters, yeah, Ghostbusters gave me COVID. But I was, it sucked because like my last day of vacation, I had gotten it. I was like, I am not getting out of this bed, and I think one of the channels that plays Ghostbusters quite a bit, I think it was TBS, had it like a marathon. Which I think it was just Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters 2, and then Afterlife. They just played them back to back to back, and I was just like, this is a shitty day, but I'm gonna have a good time watching these movies and just watch all 3 of those. Thank God they didn't play 2016 because I would have been like, oh. I would have watched it, but I wouldn't have been too happy about it. Listen, there are some good there are some okay elements to that movie. I don't hate the whole thing. I'm not Angela, okay?
Fuck that movie.
But yeah, Ghostbusters is just a staple. It's one of those just feel-good movies with just, revolutionary effects, and it's a good time. As for everything to do with the behind the scenes of this movie, which there is a lot, probably a lot that you already know, but I'm going to mention them anyways. But maybe some stuff that you didn't know already. It was directed by Ivan Reitman, who would later on go direct a bunch of movies with Arnold Schwarzenegger, like Junior and Twins. He also directed Kindergarten Cop.
Dear. Dear. Same thing.
It's not a tumor.
Yeah, it's not a tumor.
Boys have penises. Girls have vaginas.
It's true facts.
Hey, that's a little boy from Pet Sematary.
Isn't it?
Yeah. He would also come back to do Ghostbusters 2 in 1989. So he's been around, and he just recently died last year, I think. and it's very sad because I remember seeing interviews with him. It was right after Afterlife came out. He looked pretty good, spry for a older man. I think he was in his 70s, late 70s when he passed. So, yeah, sad. And he's not the only cast or crew to pass away. For the main cast or crew to pass away since this release. It was written by Dan Ackroyd and Harold Ramis. So the whole story is that Dan Ackroyd, whose family was very much into like the paranormal, the occult stuff, like just learning about it. I don't know if they were actually part of it. I don't think he was going to share that stuff, but
Probably
he's
not.
very much into all of that. So he came up with an idea for Ghostbusters, and he already had his cast kind of laid out. He wrote a specific role for John Belushi because this was written back in 1982 when that was the first draft of the script. Eddie Murphy was actually slated to be cast in this movie, which unfortunately he wasn't able to be cast because of Beverly Hills Cop, which came out the same year as this and actually was the highest. So this at the end of 1984 was the second highest for box office. Beverly Hills Cop beat it out, which I think is pretty ironic.
Yep.
So yeah, he had this whole idea of what he wanted to do with this movie, and it was just trying to find someone who wanted to do it. So they brought it to Paramount, or no, not Paramount. Columbia Pictures is the one who was behind this movie. Brought it to Columbia Pictures. They were on board to make it, but unfortunately, John Belushi passed away. So that kind of threw a wrench into the whole plans of what they were going to do. So Columbia brought in Ivan Reitman, and then later had Dan Ackroyd work with Harold Ramis, who was primarily a writer and a director at the time, but he did act in stuff before this. He was actually in Stripes, which was another Ivan Reitman film, which also had Bill Murray. And so, they kind of I guess they like stayed at I can't remember whose beach house it was, but they like stayed at a beach house for like an entire like weekend, or it was a week, or was a pretty good amount of time just focusing on writing a script for this movie and what they wanted to do. So of course it was now time to recast. So they had to find a new set of people, because at the time that they were going to then make the movie, Eddie Murphy couldn't do it. So they were like, well, Bill Murray, we could get Bill Murray in. He was popular on SNL. Dan Ackroyd was part of SNL. I think Harold Ramis might have been part of SNL. I think he was. People will yell at me in the comments or yell at me online about how wrong I am or whatever. But this is like the 2016 Ghostbusters. This was very much an SNL movie, but not an SNL movie, because it had a lot of SNL actors and writers behind it. So
I never knew that. I was actually going to ask that question, so I'm glad you answered it before we got to it.
Yeah, it's technically not an SNL movie because Lorne Michaels had nothing to do with it, and this was at a time when SNL wasn't like a jugger. I mean, it was very popular, but I don't think Lorne Michaels had the abilities to be doing stuff like this yet. I think he was in the process of making movies, or at least the SNL movies, like you would later get like Wayne's World and things like that would have like these staples of SNL. But yeah, we got Bill Murray, who I guess was very unreliable until he wasn't unreliable. Like they cast him, but like he never showed up for things. Like when they were like, yeah, we're literally gonna be filming in like 2 days. Where's Bill? Like, we're filming in like 2 hours. Where's Bill? And then like right on the dot, it was like Bill shows up and is like all in. They would have a harder time dealing with Bill Murray though in the second one, which I'm very excited to dive into kind of the antics of Bill Murray, because Bill Murray has always been an actor that people have either had a blast working with or have just like, dude is a pain in the ass. Like he's got an ego.
I wonder if it depends on what side of the whole thing you're on, like from between like a production, like another actor, maybe. I don't know.
I think it was mostly production. So it was mostly like Ivan Reitman having some sort of issues with him. I don't think there was any like blows or fights or anything, because of course he would come back for Ghostbusters 2. And they had worked together before. I know that Harold Ramis and Bill Murray I think in the 90s kind of grew apart, and they didn't talk for like 20 something years. I guess they made up a few days before Ramis died in 2014. So that's kind
Okay.
of sad.
Yeah.
But they got Sigourney Weaver to play Dana, who would, to be honest, she is kind of the when you look at like the cast and you look at like what's going on, to bring in like Sigourney Weaver, like she fits perfectly in this movie. But like when you look at everybody else, you're like, the fuck is this Sigourney Weaver, man?
Yeah, I know, right?
She is just super, like she's serious. Like she does have some, comedy bits here and there, but it's nothing like what the four Ghostbusters
Yeah.
have. You have another comedy legend in Rick Moranis, who I love him so much, man. Anything that dude is in, I'm sold. He plays Louis Tully, who is just goofy as hell. He of course
sucks.
has a major case. The whole dude, when we get to the scene with the dinner party, I love it. It's so good. But he is just fantastic, and the way they were even saying, like when they were making the movie, the way he could just kind of turn Lewis on and off, like being just his normal self, and then just turn on Louis Tully. It was like magic. Everybody was so enamored with the ability for comedy that Rick Moranis had, and he is. Oh man, I really wish he made a cameo in Frozen Empire. I was waiting for it, but unfortunately, we didn't get it.
Cool.
Yeah, we didn't get it. Annie Potts as Janine Melnitz. Jeez, trying to say names, people. I can't even say English names.
No kid.
And we're sitting here talking, like at points we're talking about Japanese movies, and I gotta say those names. Like, what are you doing to me, man? She's great. I love her. Again, we're gonna talk more about her next week, or in the next couple weeks, when we talk about Ghostbusters 2 and how they drastically changed her character for that one. But she's great. Of course, I know her from this, and we watched Young Sheldon, which was like the prequel series to Big Bang Theory, and she played the grandmother in that. She's just great, and she shows back up in the sequels. Well, she shows up in Ghostbusters 2, but she's also in Frozen Empire and Afterlife. Dickless himself, William Atherton, who plays Walter Peck. I love him. I feel so bad for him. When I was reading, like, people would treat him like shit when they saw him in public, like calling him Dickless and just treat him like people. The camera's just gonna be on me, okay? Actors act. Okay, they're acting. They're creating a character. There are some actors out there who are assholes and they like to be method, and then they take it too far. Those are the assholes. This dude was acting, or just actors most of the time are acting. When they're doing shit on the outside, not behind a camera, leave them alone.
Yeah.
Don't treat them like the character that they portrayed on screen because you didn't like them. Jesus Christ. But he's great. He's great. He's a great asshole. He really is. William Atherton. Got to shout him out. And then Ernie Hudson, of course, the fourth Ghostbuster, who originally wasn't going to be in the movie, and then he was in the movie. He was supposed to get more lines. He was actually going to show up like 20 minutes into the movie, and then they did a whole script rewrite, and he doesn't show up until when he shows up, which is like way later.
Yeah.
Which, of course, it's very disappointing because he's such a great character. But he was kind of a last-second addition to the whole thing because of like the mix-up with the cast and all that, and how they kind of brought everybody together. But I'm happy that he got more work in the subsequent sequels because Winston's the man. Winston's the fucking man.
Winston is the fucking man.
And Ernie Hudson. Have you guys seen pictures of Ernie Hudson now? The dude's like 78 years old, and the dude is ripped to shit, dude. This man is immortal. He is.
He harvests souls, and he uses them to maintain his youth.
He is Gozer.
He has to be. That should be the plot line for the next Ghostbusters, where he's just an evil demon. That's why he looks the way he does.
Look at that.
Yeah, he's. We'll post a picture of what he looks like now if you haven't seen him, but he is
stout.
So, of course, Ghostbusters was released June 8th, 1984, the same day as Gremlins. And it's my wife's birthday.
Whoa.
She wasn't born in 1984, but
It's all right. I like older women. That's cool.
had a budget of $25 to $30 million, and the box office was $296.6 million. And like I said, was the second highest grossing film of 1984 behind Beverly Hills Cop. So of course this would spawn a bunch of sequels. It would spawn a few animated series. It would spawn a number one hit song, which is possibly the most like addicting song. Like you hear it and it just gets stuck in your brain and you start singing it all the damn time. An
Everybody wants a
iconic
dinosaur.
No, that was Super Mario Brothers.
Damn it.
And one of the most iconic characters, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. But this is the Stay Dough Marshmallow Man.
Couldn't help it.
Yeah,
It just popped in there.
He's got sharp teeth. The ironic thing, and I didn't even mean to do it, was the fact that I put him next to my gremlin.
Oh.
Aw.
They came out the same day. So.
Kick his
Also,
ass.
if you don't own this movie already, they have a awesome steelbook that includes both Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2. This is gorgeous. It's both 4K. It's got the 4 dudes on the back.
That's cool. I'd modify the fingers so it looks like it's flipping someone off.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to. You have to do that.
It's got to be family friendly, though.
No,
For them, it's got to be family friendly.
But when it comes to behind the scenes, I think we'll talk about a lot of the stuff as we go through the plot of the movie. I think it just it flows a little bit better. So, actually, some additional things. The music was done by Elmer Bernstein, which the score for this movie is iconic. Between just kind of that poppy sound throughout the movie, and then you kind of have the creepy, during the creepy scenes, you have the awesome string work and all that, which we'll get in like the very first scene of the movie. This was almost not called Ghostbusters. It was actually called Ghostbreakers for a long time because there was a show during the 70s called Ghostbusters that was owned by Universal. And for the longest time, the president of Columbia was trying to get the rights to get the name Ghostbusters and just wouldn't work. Universal just wasn't budging. Coca-Cola ended up buying Columbia Pictures. And they were trying to do all of this crazy shit with Columbia to the point where the president of Columbia said, you know what? I'm going to get out of here. So he leaves and goes to Universal and literally is the one to get the right to give Columbia the rights to Ghostbusters.
That's
so if
cool.
the president of Columbia didn't leave to go to Universal, this movie could have been called Ghostbreakers. Would you imagine that? That would have been a rough one.
Different reality. Maybe not. Who's to say?
And then last thing before we get to the plot, the song Ghostbusters, which was written by Ray Parker Jr., of course, he was sued by Huey Lewis because it was similar sounding to one of his songs. There's a whole thing. I don't remember how it ended. I think Huey Lewis did win, but it just wasn't anything major, so the song is still able to be played. But Ray Parker Jr. does not say Ghostbusters at all throughout the entire song because he did not like the word and he didn't know how to make the word fit for his lyrics. So that's why the only people who say Ghostbusters are the background singers, which I believe during the recording was his girlfriend at the time and a couple of her friends or a couple of his friends. They're the ones who say Ghostbusters.
That's so weird. Like, that's just you got to have a line. The man has to have a line, have principles. Like, I don't like the way it sounds. I ain't saying it.
Well, no, when he was writing the lyrics, he's like, I don't know how to incorporate this word into the song. So it fits for that chorus part, and it sounds better somebody else singing it, I guess, than having him sing it. And then the music video, of course, became like this huge thing because it had a bunch of cameos from all the big stars of the time. If you've never seen the Ghostbusters music video, do yourself a favor and check it out. Yeah, we got the Real Ghostbusters, 1986. We got the Extreme Ghostbusters television show, 1997. We got video games. We got board games, comic books, and the whole damn thing. Haunted attractions. You can still visit the firehouse to this day.
Ecto Cooler.
Yeah, the Ecto Cooler.
You won't put me back in the cooler.
Oh man. But yeah, let's hop into the plot and we'll talk a little bit more about the behind the scenes as we go through. So, if you all are ready, are you guys ready?
No.
All right. We're never ready. We're never ready. All right, it is time to dissect that boom. So the movie opens up to the New York Public Library, and there are some paranormal activities happening there.
Oh, you can't do that. You can't say
Did the Ouija board set on fire? Oh no, wait, that's actually paranormal activity. Sorry. And we are at the point of view of the librarian as she is walking through this really dark basement-like area of the library. Like, does anyone visit this part of the library? To be honest, it doesn't look like many people visit this library, period, because there's not many people here at all.
That reminds me of some of the libraries I've been in, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I feel like that's just how libraries
dark corridor and like the shit's all packed in. It's an older building. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's fucking sweet.
Yeah. The library I used to go to a lot as a kid was an old, I think it was an old mill, because that's the town that I work in is also where I grew up. So a lot of the old buildings were old mill buildings that they just transform into like apartments or libraries or churches or whatever.
Brothels.
Brothels. There's one like way in the back. They got to keep it in the back there. It's just got a curtain. I'm looking for Robinson Crusoe. Back here, sir. That's the code word. That's the code word.
That's Robinson.
Imagine somebody's actually coming in to get Robinson Crusoe. They're just like, "Here you go, sir." They're like, "The fuck is that? Get me out of here!"
All the books on the shelves are just like old encyclopedias and like TV guides. Like,
every time you open it up, it just goes.
Like, oh, no, that's the Sears catalog.
Victoria's Secret.
It's like the movie rental places that had the adult section.
Behind the beads. Behind the beads.
The beads, yep.
Not the beads.
Not the beads.
It's just Nicolas Cage getting hit in the face with the beads in the back of the movie store.
Not the beads. They're ripping my flesh off. Fucking Tommy. I'm allergic to bees. I gotta get out of here.
Can't see without his glasses. His glasses.
Oh, fuck that kid. He's allergic to beads. They just dump beads.
How many movies are we going to reference in this one spot?
All of them.
Okay.
All of them.
I do love as she's walking through and like the what the hell are these things called? Is the catalog there? Do you look for a book? What do they call those? Like we're dumb, so we can't think.
I can't remember what they're called.
Yeah.
I remember having to use them.
Again, someone yell at us. Be like, it's
stupid. Been a long time.
Yeah.
I remember the piece of paper and the pencil and you write it down.
Yeah. But the cards are all flying out. I love it.
Dude, that'd be such a pain in the ass to clean up.
The effect work was they just had like a vacuum or a leaf blower that would just blow them out.
Oh.
That works. It's simple, but it works.
Cool. Yeah, and then you got the books that would like go from one shelf to the other, which they was just having them on a string or a line, so they could just kind of erase it, and then just.
It would have been fun. Yeah, it would have been funnier if it's just like book goes, and then a bat goes, and a book goes.
Always gotta have the bats on string.
Yeah,
best effect ever.
She wasn't scared of all these flying cards. She just didn't want to see it, so she didn't have to clean it up.
Oh, I wouldn't want.
She's like,
I didn't see that. I don't know what happened.
Bill will be here later, so I saw nothing.
Yeah,
Karen, did you go down to the basement earlier? No,
that wasn't Ghost. He was.
Did you see the cards just flying everywhere and you just didn't want to pick it up? I don't know why Bill sounds like this, but it's fine.
Hang on.
It's Bill. Yeah,
it's just Bill. Bill is free, is living a free life, So things happen and you don't see what she sees, but you get the bright light on her face. She screams, and then it turns into the Ghostbusters logo and the beginning of the song.
Had to look it up. It's a card catalog.
Okay, I said catalog, so I was close. I thought it had like a weird name. I don't know.
No,
Shows how long it's been since I've been in a library.
Who the fuck goes to the library?
I don't know. People like to read.
It's fine if you go to the library.
I know that Pete from Give Me Back My Action and Horror goes to the library all the time to rent his movies. So
that's
all right.
I have a digital library. I don't like going to the library anymore.
Sometimes I kind of want to because I loved the smell. I don't know how
That's
weird.
the
That's a
only
weird
thing.
thing to say, but like
No,
you open it up and you just
no.
get that like that sweet aroma of books that are just
Yes.
old.
The older, the better.
And
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's
musty.
the same with comic books. When you get like thumb through old comic books.
Yeah. Like I love going to like Barnes and Noble and just smelling the books. It's weird. I don't like go up to the book and like a fucking like I'm smoking a line
Sir,
off the
I need
top.
you to put the book back.
Sir, please stop. So you're gonna have to buy that. Like
You're gonna have to decontaminate that book, sir.
golly, get out of here.
Well, with the size of my nose, I gotta be careful because I could just hide them up there and they'll think I'm stealing. Don't put that in there.
Sir, are you trying to steal that book? I don't know what you're talking about. I just have a stuffy nose.
Twilight's just hanging out.
Oh,
Of
why
all
did you
books you're
ever
gonna
do
steal,
that?
you don't steal that.
It's just
You
first
go to
thing
the
that came to
counter and
mind.
you go, I want this for free. And they go, sir, we can't give that to you. Do you know what this is?
I'm trying to steal this copy of Food of the Gods. I need to know about the Earth Gravy.
H.P. Lovecraft.
Nature's
He
gravy.
loves nature's gravy. Oh my god. So we then meet Peter Venkman, who listen, Bill Murray
Just shit.
does a great job at portraying this character, but he sucks. He is a piece of shit throughout this entire movie. He is that character where I'm like, his jokes are funny, but there are some moments you're like, bro, you should be getting arrested for some of this shit. Why do you have this? What are you doing? You're a creep, and why is Sigourney Weaver even remotely interested in you? I lose a little bit of respect for Dana because I'm like, lady, I would have like the dude she was walking out with during the band practice. That's a better choice.
He might be, that's true, but he might be into playing flute, so you never know.
Hey,
I'm not judging him. I'm just saying
their
that's like
own.
what his instinct
But
yeah, it's fine.
I mean, he seemed kind of jealous in that scene, but we'll get to it. So he's doing like an experiment with cards where they got different shapes on it. There's of course this squirrely dude who's just sitting there. He's just like, and then you have this girl who they ask like, "What do you see the shape?" Because it's supposed to be like some sort of was it telepathy? What is he trying to figure out?
Yeah,
and he asks her. She gets them all right, even though they're not even close. And I love that the kid gets the guy gets him wrong, except for the last one. He guesses it right, but he still says he's wrong. and he gets pissed off and he storms out and he's like, "This $5 isn't worth it anyways."
See, that part didn't make sense outside of it just being like, I guess to culminate the joke. But like, does his character just hate this guy?
No,
because he got it right. Why
he's a
didn't he just tell him
womanizer.
Oh no, I get that, but like, why?
I don't know. Maybe to look cooler in front of the girl. I don't know.
I just don't understand that. Like, it made like, I don't know, whatever.
I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I just get confused why anyone would be attracted to Bill Murray, but I'm also not a very attractive man myself, so I can't judge. So Ray Stantz shows up, played by Dan Ackroyd, and he's like, "Yo, there's something crazy going on at the library. I need you to come with me." And he's like, "Dude, I'm trying to get in with this girl." And he's like, "Let's go." And he's like, "Oh, we'll meet again at another time." And I love how they're like, 8 o'clock? Oh, I was actually thinking 8 o'clock. It's like we're on the same wavelength. Oh, run, girl, run.
Yeah, this ain't right. Shit ain't right.
So they go back to the library, and this is where we meet Egon Spengler, possibly the most crazy name. I wonder if Harold Ramis came up with this name himself. I want to know who came up with this name. It's wild. Only people that are named Egon or Spengler are people who were fans of this movie and named their kids this.
Yep, 100%.
But he is like very serious. He takes, his comedy is very dry, and I love the character that he created with Egon. And except for the fact where he's wearing the headphones and he's like measuring the thing on the table, and Pete drops the book, and I'm like, bro, his eardrums have exploded into little pieces. Like, that's not funny. That's damaging, and I would have punched him in the face. So Pete has to interview the librarian. He's just asking her very personal questions, like, "Are you on your menstrual cycle? Like, what's going on?" And I just the guy who runs the library just comes in. He's just like, "What does that have to do with anything?" He's like, "Back off, buddy. I'm a scientist."
Yep.
And Egon's getting readings. I think. What is the device that he is using? Is it the spectrometer?
PK meter.
The PK meter. Yeah. And I love it. Like every time it gets signal, it's got the little flaps on the side that like come up. To show like how strong or weak the signal is. So they go to the basement because he's getting strong signals down there, and they notice like the slime on the card catalogs and all of that. It's like, Pete, collect a sample. He collects it, but he gets it on himself. This is the comedy I like from Bill Murray, where it's like that physical stuff where he gets it on his hand and he's just like, and then he just wipes
on all the books. Yeah.
So they go around the corner. This is a librarian ghost. Like she's just chilling. She's looking through the card catalog. She's just, doing her thing. And she, does the because they're talking loud. They go around the corner. And then Ray's just like, all right, I got a new plan. He just goes out there and he's just like, get her. And then she turns into like the scary looking ghost and they run away. The craziest thing is she shows up again. There's going to be spoilers for Frozen Empire. So if you haven't seen Frozen Empire, skip forward a little bit because I'm going to talk about things that are linked between the two. She shows back up. You guys have seen it?
No, we're just fucking with you.
Okay, I was like, I wouldn't do it if I knew you guys hadn't seen it. She shows back up in Frozen Empire. Like they go back to the same library. They go back to that same spot. She's still there. And it just shows that, because a lot of people thought that she was captured. She was never captured. They ran away and never come back, and they never mention it ever again until this moment. But I love how Ray sees her again in the Frozen Empire, and then she turns back into the evil-looking librarian again. I was like, dude, I like that. Okay, sure, it's fine. Yeah. So the boys then go back to the college that they work at, and they find out that they've been fired because they're using money for things and they're just nothing is coming out of it. Like, of course, I love the guy calling out Pete for being a swindler and kind of just being a fraud, and Pete's trying to be all like trying to stand up for himself. And it's like, bro, he's right. You fucking suck. You're not doing anything scientifically like relevant or like helpful to anyone. You're just trying to get chicks, man.
Yep. That's
it. So they got to figure out what to do. What are they going to do? Ray's like, I was going to do, I think he was going to like transfer to a different college. His life was looking up, blah, blah, blah. But then they decide that they're going to study the paranormal. They're going to start up this business. And so what do? They go and get like a second mortgage on Ray's house that his parents gave.
Yeah.
I love the whole thing where he's just like, 3 mortgages at 19%. That equals up to $95,000.
But how much did they spend? They never told you how much money they got, did they?
No. But Pete talks about like everything that they're gonna get out of it.
Yeah,
like he's thinking of the money they're gonna make because it's gonna become a franchise. They're gonna make a shit ton of money. It's gonna be okay. They got to find somewhere to start this business, and so they go to this old abandoned firehouse, which is not abandoned, never was. And at first it's like covered in cobwebs. It looks like shit. Yeah. I love how the guys, Pete and Egon are there, just like, yeah, I don't know about this. This is kind of not what we're looking for, and it was kind of expensive too. And then freaking
a deal on it.
Yeah, and then Ray's like slides down the fire. Did you guys see that? They got a fire pole. When are we moving in? It's like, yeah, I guess we're taking it. And we also get them like fixing it up. They're paying the sign, and then Ray shows up with what would become the Ecto-1. It's a black. I think it was a hearse, right? That's what.
Yeah, it's an old Cadillac hearse. Hearse. Yeah, it's like late 50s, early 60s, like 58, or 59, 60, 61, somewhere in that range.
I just love how Pete's outside. He's just like, whoa, you can't park here.
You can't park there.
So the original design for the Ecto-1, it was supposed to be black with the logos on it, which to be honest,
Really?
I would have loved. I know you can get them, like they make toys and models of a black Ecto-1. Man, I would have loved that more than I love the Ecto-1. Don't get me wrong, but the black would have been fucking great. Especially the
Very
Ghostbusters.
different. Different contrast. I like the white. But
Oh yeah,
very
absolutely.
interesting.
And that that alarm is so iconic. So we then meet Dana Barrett, and she is coming home to her building. I love how they show the city. It's the beautiful matte painting of the city, and then the building that they use for her building, which is an actual building, but I guess they had to add like 16 floors to get it to be because it wasn't a very tall building.
Normal stuff.
Yeah.
Just glue floors in there.
Yeah. I love we meet her neighbor, Louis Tully, played by Rick Moranis, and he is the best. And he's he's that guy. He's got to constantly fix his glasses. He's very nosy. He has a crush on her. You could definitely tell. Like he wants to get some sort of relationship with her. He tries to be helpful. And he's just he's kind of a creep in a way, even though I feel like he's not trying to be. He's just socially awkward.
He's so short compared to her.
She's very
tall.
She is very tall. Rick Moranis, I don't think is very tall, but she is very tall.
She is. It's cool as hell. I was like, gosh, I didn't realize how tall she was.
But she goes into her apartment, and what's on the TV when she turns it on? But the Ghostbusters commercial.
Are you troubled by strange noises in the middle of the night?
Do you experience feelings of dread in your basement or attic?
Have you or any of your family ever seen a spook, specter, or ghost?
If the answer is yes, then don't wait another minute. Pick up your phone and call the professionals. Go Ghostbusters!
The iconic, which I think was one of the first things they ever filmed. It was supposed to be some sort of like selling point for the studio to kind of make the movie, or to kind of push with the movie and give them more money, which is great. I believe that the phone number worked for a while. You could actually call that number, and it would actually just be pre-recorded dialogue from the Ghostbusters. Like, hey, we're out busting ghosts right now, so we'll be back. But thanks for calling, and just leave a message.
That's cool.
Thing. Yeah,
that's cool promotion. Way to do that.
I mean, this movie was promoted like crazy back then, and I mean, Ghostbusters period is just such a crazy franchise when it comes to promotions and merchandise and all that stuff.
Yes.
So weird things start to happen. She goes into the kitchen, she puts down her groceries, and what happens? But the eggs start hopping out of the carton, and they start frying on the counter.
That's normal. It's
she's
one of those
like,
convection tops.
She's like, what's happening here? And then she starts seeing like a slight glow coming from her refrigerator, and she opens it, and it's like a portal to another world. You see like a platform, you see the demon dogs and things, and it's just like, oh shit.
Fluffy.
It's an augmented reality refrigerator.
Yeah. I love the growling fridge though. It's fantastic.
Growling fridge.
I'm
hungry.
I just want to fuck with somebody and just like put like a speaker in their refrigerator and just like start playing like the growling noise. So they're like, what the fuck is going on?
That would be so cool. Please
but you do hear Zool from the refrigerator as when she opens it.
Zool, motherfucker. Absolutely.
I'm spindly and I can bend weird. I'm Zool. So the firehouse is tidied up. Looks great. And we meet Janine, which I really wish that we got an interview scene with her, like as she's getting hired.
Oh,
but it says she's already gone. Yeah, it would have been great. She's so good. Annie Potts is great in this role. She has a thing for Egon though, man. I love it. It's kind of the scene where she's at her desk and he comes out from under her desk and you're just like, I mean, that's not what was going on, but you're just like, I feel like it was kind of poking at it, like,
yeah.
And Dana shows up, and the Bill Murray hopping over the gate when he sees her because she's explaining like what's going on, and he hops over. I guess that was improvised by Bill Murray. That wasn't supposed to happen. He was just supposed to like kind of run and like walk through the gate, but instead he hurdles it. And she then gets tested after she tells her story because, of course, like he believes her in air quotes because
Yeah, yeah.
he wants her because
He
Pete.
believes
that's all,
he could get in between her legs.
Yeah.
That's what he believes.
That's all Pete wants.
Yeah,
And
of course.
the others are kind of skeptical about it, but then she starts mentioning like different things, like mentioning Zool and mentioning what else was she talking about? I can't remember.
I don't remember.
She just talks about the entire experience, the experience.
Yeah.
She talks about her building because her building is weird, and so they're going to investigate the building, the origin of Zool, and then Pete's like, "I'll go investigate her apartment." It's like, sure you will. So Dana and Venkman go to her apartment, and he is just a creep the whole time. He comes in with like the sniffer thing, which I think it's an actual device that you would use for gas leaks, like to sense if there's a gas leak.
Yeah.
And of course he's like, "Oh, was there anything going on in your bedroom?" And she's like, "No, nothing happened in there." But he still goes in there. Like he's just a creep, bro. Like, and she's laughing because she knows what's going on. Like she is just like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? And the fact that all of this and all of what happens later leads to them getting together makes me angry.
Yes.
But here we are.
Be a piece of shit, you'll get the person you want.
Exactly.
I guess.
So he goes in there, he investigates the kitchen, nothing there. Sees the eggs that are still on the counter. But then he opens up the refrigerator and there's nothing. He's like, "Oh, a lot of junk food." I'm like, "Shut up.
Dude.
Get out of here, bro.
Gosh.
Suck." So we're back at the firehouse and a call comes in. It's the first call they've ever gotten. And it's that iconic, she picks it up. "Oh, really? Oh my God.
For real?
We got one!" And then the bell goes off and they're kind of sitting at at a table upstairs and they're just confused because they've never gotten a call before. So like, "Oh, what?" And then they all go down. It's great. I love it. We get the suit up and everything and the Ecto-1 flying out of the firehouse. The only thing I have a slight complaint about is why do they got to do like that super fast shot when the Ecto-1
they speed it up.
I don't like it. I wish it was just a natural just driving out of the
if you're worried about if you're worried about the shot taking long too long, just cut it at some point. Don't just let it keep going.
And the music is always great when there's like crazy things like it's like it kind of feels weird, like it kind of feels like it doesn't fit for the movie, but I'm like, no, it definitely fits. It's great. So they go to the Sedgwick Hotel, which I guess this hotel is actually in LA. And there is some troubles going on the 12th floor. And I guess there were some hauntings or some unexplained things that were happening on the 12th floor a while ago, but they had stopped and now they have returned. So I love the elevator. They go to the elevator and the guy who's waiting for the elevator. So he's like, "Well, what are you guys supposed to be?" "Exterminators." "Exterminators of what?"
Yeah.
Somebody said something about big cockroaches on 12. It's like, "Oh, you want to come in?" "No, I'll get the next one. Thanks." So they get up.
I like the scene in the elevator.
Oh yeah, when they turn on
turn the power packs on for the first time.
They turn the proton packs on.
Proton pack, sorry.
Just back up against the wall.
They all just back because they're like nuclear
accelerators or something.
Accelerators. There's like they all just back up when it fires up. They're like, oh God.
Oh no.
That's so good.
So they get up to 12 and they split up because they're like, it'll cover more ground. I'm like, this never works out well.
God.
Ray is the first one to find a ghost, and it is the very famous Slimer, who he's not named Slimer in this movie. It's hard to see him, but I see him. I see like his outline back there. He's not called Slimer, I guess, until the animated series.
Yep.
But Ray sees him, and then you got the whole thing where he's got the cigarette in his mouth, and the cigarette like drops, but it like hangs from his lip. I guess that was like a one take thing. I guess they didn't. He's like, I didn't put anything on my lip. It just happened, and it just stayed there, and we just kept it. It just looked cool. So
yeah.
So then it like goes through the wall, and then it runs into Pete, and then it goes after Pete, and it goes through him, and then you get the whole thing. It's like, "Ray, come get me!" And then you just got Pete on the floor, just wrangling around. It's like, "What happened?" "He slimed me." Which again, Frozen Empire had to use the same goddamn line, and I hate when movies do that.
Stop it. Get some help.
Michael Jordan shows up. Stop that.
Well, I mean, it's like, I get it. Like, there's a fine line between a callback and it just being annoying. We've talked about this before when they reuse like shots or moments in films and they just overdo it. But anyway, carry on.
But I do love when they get up there for the first time before they even run into Slimer and they accidentally freaking use the pack on the cleaning lady.
Yes,
flies everywhere. You got like burnt toilet paper and stuff. It's great. But yeah, back to Slimer.
That's not a realistic depiction of a cleaning lady either. Just gonna point that out.
Oh.
As somebody that works in a lot of hotels, not realistic.
Well, this is also 1984, so
doesn't matter. They'd be Hispanic. No offense. That's just how it would be. Not making fun of them.
All right. And
that's just a joke. It's fine.
It's fine. Talking about Slimer though. I love.
It's true. Don't look at me like that. I work in this industry. I know. I've been there. Not 1986, 5, 7, 8, 12, 4. There you go. I get it eventually.
12.
There's only so many.
1980, 12. I don't know what that is.
1980, 11D10 or whatever it was on SpongeBob. Carry on. Sorry.
Oh man. So Slimer was a puppet. Well, he was a puppet. There was a person in it, and then they would have to do some sort of green screen work around it to kind of erase everything, and then they would like make him glow so he looked like a ghost. So back in this time, there was only one like major VFX studio, and that was ILM. ILM was working on Temple of Doom at the time, and so they were like, well, "What are we gonna do?" Because there. It's not like now where there's a fuck ton of effects houses that can do, anything.
Mediocre effects for any movie.
Yeah, which is not always the effects studio's fault. But
timelines, budgets.
So what had to happen was that there was a couple guys that were fed up with ILM because they even mentioned it in the Movies That Made Us episode that's on Netflix. Check it out; it's really good.
It is good.
They talked about the fact that ILM was turning into kind of a corporate company. They didn't like because it was a very back when ILM was founded, it was a bunch of just really talented people that got together and they kind of just created beautiful things, and they kind of got to do their own thing and kind of got to do whatever they wanted, to a certain degree. And then I guess it kind of got more corporate, which is just how companies work. And so some of the guys that worked there left, and Columbia Pictures like, hey, we will give you money to start your own studio if you'll work on this movie. So pretty much Boss Film Studios was founded because of this movie, which is just a bunch of former ILM employees that came to do this job.
Are they still around?
I believe so.
Okay, I didn't know if they were like under a different moniker or not. I'm not familiar with that.
Oh no, they were defunct in '97, so they haven't been around in a while.
Lame.
Yeah, it was founded by Richard Enland. And he worked on Raiders of the Lost Ark and the entire Star Wars trilogy, so he had experience. So it closed in '97. There were difficulties of sustaining an independent effects house within the competitive environment of the time. Always sad. But it's pretty crazy how one movie can like start a studio because it's like we got to do something because this is going to have effects work. We got to do. So yeah, they go down to the ballroom, and that's where Slimer is. Also, Slimer's biggest thing is he likes to eat. So one of the parameters of creating Slimer was that he needed to look like John Belushi. So they created.
Okay.
Well, let me finish the story though. So they created the look of Slimer, and then they brought it to the people involved, and they were like, "We really want him to look like John Belushi." And the guy's like, "Okay." So he goes back, and he literally was like, "I did nothing. I didn't change him. I went back with pretty much the same exact design." And they were like, "I love it. Looks great." So the whole story is that Slimer, like, people always talk about, oh yeah, Slimer is supposed to look like John Belushi. He doesn't. It was asked of him to change him to look like John Belushi, and he never did. And they were just like, yeah, looks great. And they just moved on.
I wonder if it was like a placebo effect. Like they're thinking like that they went back and changed it, or they're just like, it doesn't fucking matter. We need to do this shit and get going.
It was just so funny. I can't remember if it was Richard Enlund himself or one of the guys that were working on it, who was in charge of working on Slimer, who was just like, yeah, I maybe made like one little tweak here and there, but it was like nothing substantial for them to be like, it looks like the same thing. It's like, it looks great. All right, let's move on. Oh man, so good. But yeah, he likes to eat. And I'm just thinking to myself, ghosts, like, clearly it's not doing anything. Like, it's not sustaining him. So the only thing I can think of is that the person that he was a big guy and he liked to eat. And so that's kind of all he knows to do, right?
Yeah,
that makes
those
sense, right?
glitzies in his mouth, dude.
Yeah, because, well, the thing is that every time you see him eat, you see all the shit that falls through him, which they would reuse in Casper.
Yes,
that whole effect, which we're going to cover that movie at some point. I love that movie.
Yes.
Which there is a Ghostbuster in it.
There is.
Yeah. So things go crazy. I love where he like locks the door and then all you hear is like the crashing and everything. And the guy's just out there like, what the hell's happening? And then right as they're about to attack Slimer, Egon's like, just remember, we can't cross the streams. He's like, you're going to tell us this now?
Yes.
Because it's like this whole thing was like, yeah, you'll explode at a molecular level. And it's just like, all right, well, that's cool. I guess just don't do that. So they finally catch him. They use the cool trap. They leave. I love the whole thing where it's just like, we came, we saw, we kicked its ass, which was the second. They had a whole different line for Pete for that, like exit of the room. But he came up with that and they were like, love it. Great. And it's one of my favorite lines of the entire movie. I love it. So, yeah, I love also where they're like coming up with like the bill. 5,000. I won't pay it. Well, I guess we're just gonna go put it back.
Yep.
But
what are you gonna do?
But also, when they walk into the ballroom and they see it's fucking destroyed, I'd be like, I'm not paying that. You owe us. I don't know. Guess that's just not how business works.
Nope. Yeah,
But the
Expenses would be obscene.
But the Ghostbusters are a hit. And we get a cool montage where we get to see them doing some. Well, you don't really get to see them doing anything. They're just constantly coming out of buildings with traps with possibly a ghost inside of them. The theme kicks in, of course. We get Larry King talking about it on his show at the time. You got Casey Kasem talking about it over the radio.
Yeah. And we were talking about this, like, oh, it's fucking Casey Kasem before he even said his name. Like, you just know what he sounds like.
And then you get a scene that even. Oh yeah. I love Casey Kasem. Casey Kasem to me is the voice of Shaggy in the original Scooby-Doo.
Yes.
Like, that's how I'll always remember him. But I do remember listening to like classic rock stations, and they would always have like a Casey Kasem hour where they would just take old recordings of him and do like the top 10 or whatever it was, top 20 or whatever it was. Yeah, it's great. This is also we get the Ray ghost blowjob scene, which is always a scene I always like. For some reason, it just always escapes my mind that this is in this movie. It's so weird because I always thought it was something that actually happens to him, but it's just a dream. And I'm like, why is this even in here? It's such a weird scene that it's it doesn't do anything.
We're watching this with the kids, and I was like, I'm just gonna skip this because I don't want to have to explain this. Like, it's just skip.
What's happening, Dad? Nothing.
They're checking for hemorrhoids. He just didn't turn his head and cough. It's fine.
It's that scene you go, huh? That doesn't make sense, but all right, sure. He's having
that's so weird.
He's having erotic dreams about ghosts. Okay.
So was it just like the movie was just like, all right, guys, we need to put like 30 seconds to a minute in here because the movie's just not long enough. Just have this shot in here. Somebody, I'm telling you, somebody in the involvement of this movie really pushed hard to have this scene in there. I guarantee it. Like, it's got to be in there, dude. It's not going to work without it.
Yeah, it was Ray. It was Dan Ackroyd. I've always thought about getting a blowy from a ghost. Like, all right, Dan, that's kind of weird. You should keep that to yourself. Oh, it's in the script, and we're keeping it. And he's like,
yeah, shit.
Sweet. As long as I'm not the one getting it done to.
Studio's like, we can't allow this. It's like, then we're walking. Fuck.
Whole movie is just because of that one scene.
Mm-hmm.
That's got to stay.
Like I said, you got to have a line.
Love it. So we then get the interview of Winston Zeddemore. I love Janine interviewing him. He's like, "Do you believe in the paranormal, UFOs, like all this stuff?" And he's like, "If it'll get me the job, then yes."
Yeah, like, do I get paid?
Yeah.
Listen, Winston's probably one of my favorite characters.
Oh, I love him. He's great.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
And like again, I love that they use him way more in the sequels. Like, I wish they used him more in this one, of course, but I love that he is like, they don't sideline him for anything. Like,
No, he's
Afterlife,
awesome.
they kind of sidelined the entire original Ghostbusters because they wanted it to be about this new group. But I love his involvement in Frozen Empire. I did not like Frozen Empire very much. I think it's probably my least favorite other than 2016, which, to be honest, of the core original Ghostbusters, I Frozen Empire is my least favorite. Just, I don't know. I don't want to get into it. But he gets hired. I love how they just walk in after a job and they're just like, "Yep, you got the job." And he's like, "All right, cool." And he's like, "Yeah, bring this out." He hands him the trap and he's like, "I've been like,
yeah,
the fuck is that?"
I just like that because isn't it Ray that walks in?
Yeah,
and he's like, "Hey, this is Winston about the job." He's like, "Great." He's like, "Let's get started." Like, he doesn't even give a shit how the interview goes.
Yeah,
it's a trap. Let's go.
Like, okay. So Pete visits Dana and tells her about Zool and Gozer. So Zool is the the protectors of Gozer, like the servants of Gozer, and Gozer is like the Sumerian god. There's more to it, but I don't want to get into that. Like, she's bad, or it's bad, because I guess it's one of those things where the sex doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter.
Take on any form.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Irrelevant.
Yeah. We see the containment unit, like, down in the basement where they stick all the traps, and it's like, when it's green, the trap is clean.
Mm-hmm.
Great, love it. And then you get this whole thing where Janine's not getting paid. Like, there's a lot going on. She's not getting, help, because they were like, "You were supposed to get us help like a while ago. Like, what's going on?" And she's like, and then the phone rings. She's like, "Ghostbusters, what do you want?"
Yeah.
And we
quit
meet
jobs. He's like, she said something like, "I quit jobs that have paid more than this," or something like that.
I've quit better jobs than this.
Quit better. That's what it is.
So then we meet Walter Peck. He is the head of he's the head of the EPA, right? Or does he just work for the EPA? I can't remember.
I works for the EPA.
But he is a peckerhead. That is what I put in my notes. His name fits perfectly for who he is.
I was reminded, because we were supposed to have a guest for this episode, and I was reminded through messages. He couldn't make it. It's fine. It's Adam from Remember the Game. I was supposed to remind everybody that Peck, in fact, has no dick. Just want to remind everybody so you all know. That needs to be stated.
Yeah. But he's just so slimy. Like, I understand he's doing his job. Like, we have to understand he's doing his job, but he's just doing it in such a shitty way. Like, can we just have a normal I mean, Bill Murray, Pete is being a dick too, because he's being asked these questions. He's just like, "No, I'm not going to do that." And so, of course, like, he has to leave because he wants to see the containment unit. He won't show him, so he's like, "Well, I'll just come back." He's like, "All right, well, you bring back what you need to bring back, and whatever." We move on. So then we are downstairs with Egon, Ray, and Winston as they're talking about the containment unit, and they're talking about how the containment unit isn't going to hold much more than what's in there. And you get the whole Twinkie theory. Which I guess when Harold Ramis passed away, people were actually putting Twinkies in front of the firehouse as like in honor of him, just because of this scene. It's great.
I love this scene though. That's big Twinkie.
Imagine the Twinkie's like 30 feet. It's like 30 feet long. That's one big Twinkie.
Yeah. Hey man, tell me about the Twinkie. Yes, tell me about the Twinkie. I just love it.
And then, he tells him like, somebody from the EPA showed up. So we might have a problem at some point. We then see the like gargoyle type dogs that are perched on top of the building that Dana lives in. They start to come to life. They break free from their from the confines of their concrete jails. And
One of
they
them was
will-
voiced by Keith David. You realize it's just gargoyles. Like, what's going on?
Dude, Keith David voiced the main gargoyle in Gargoyles, and he was Spawn in the animated series.
Yes.
Man, Keith David's the man.
Yes, he is. I love him, dude.
Fucking Childs from The Thing, baby.
Yes.
So good. Something weird is happening in Dana's kitchen. But before that, Lewis is having a party, and I fucking love the dialogue in this because it's so weird. Because he's talking about how like nobody here is his friend; they're just business associates, and he's
So there
literally
could be a write-off or whatever, right?
Yes. Like all the food and stuff. And I love the one woman who's like, "Do you have Tylenol?" And he's like, "I got this." I can't remember what the name of it was. But he's like this huge name for a medication. He just gives it to her. She's just like, "Okay."
Yeah.
I was like, "Don't do that in real life, people. If you don't know what the medication is, don't take it."
Yeah, exactly. Let me read a bottle or something.
Yeah.
We need to know what it is.
But I love it. Like these two people walk through the door and he like introduces them, but he also tells them like their entire history. He's the best. He's the best, but he's not, you know. He's just
Reminds me of the SpongeBob party thing where he's got the whole itinerary and it just conversation cards are between 6:15 and 6:45. Like this is what reminds me of. That may have been where they got that joke from. Holy shit, that'd be hilarious. Anyway, go ahead.
I mean, SpongeBob does get influenced by a lot of other things, so I wouldn't be
Yes,
surprised.
it does. Yep.
But I do love when he throws the coats and the demon dog's just laying on the bed. Oh, the demon dog like bursts out of the bedroom, and I love the differences between the compositing shots of the dog and the puppet dog. So the actor in the puppet that couldn't stand like the dog to keep all four legs up because the costume is so heavy. That's why every time you see the puppet dog, it looks like it's laying down, like its back legs are like laying on the ground because they couldn't keep the back legs up for those shots. So they just always look like he was laying down. It's great.
That's fun. That's kind of similar to what happened with the original Godzilla. They actually had it was two actors. Haruo Nakajima was the one that ended up doing most of the work. That's why he's the guy that's known for it. But anyway, the first suit they made for Godzilla was obscenely heavy and it was practically unusable. And they had to make another one that was lighter weight because you couldn't do anything in the original one. It was too rigid, it was too heavy, it was too whatever. So they kept the old suit, but they cut it in half. And that's where you get some famous shots if you're in the hobby of it's just the bottom half of Godzilla and it's Haruo in it and it's got like little suspender straps where he's strapped into it. And it's just like for low shots where he's like kicking buildings and shit like that.
I feel like that makes way more sense to do. Like if you're just doing shots of him walking around destroying the city, why do I need the actor to have the entire costume on? That just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, exactly. And that way they could utilize. But that's what it made me think of because people just couldn't work in the suit. It was too fucking heavy. So anyway.
But so he gets chased. Dana gets attacked in her apartment by some claws, and one of them gets really feely, man. One of them is just
it
cupping a
does.
feel on her boobie, man. Just pop, pop, the entire time she's getting sucked into that kitchen.
He needs to slap
I mean,
that hand.
listen,
She's like,
I understand
"Stop it, be
the actors
professional."
couldn't see where they were grabbing, so I'm guessing it was an accident, but one of them was like, he found it and he just kept it there.
Like, this
He knew what
is
he
it.
was
This is
doing.
the spot.
All right.
This is my one shot.
I love that Pete shows up after everything happens. Because Lewis gets attacked at a restaurant. I love he's like trying to get the people's attention in the restaurant, and everybody's like, "What's going on here?" And then you just hear him scream, but you don't see the dog. And my wife looks at me and she goes, "Does everyone see the dog?" And I was like, "They have to because I don't think the people in the restaurant did just because of the angle, but the people in the apartment did. Like when it bursts through the door and then like runs out the apartment, I'm guessing his guests see him, right? Or do they just see an explosion? They're just like, "What's happening?"
Because everybody calls it a different animal. Somebody says it's a bear. Someone says it's like a fucking puma or some shit.
Yeah,
like, I don't know.
And Pete shows up for his date with Dana. We forgot to mention the fact that like he shows up to her post band practice, and she's talking to some dude, and then he like asks her out in a weird way, and I was like, why is she even giving this dude the time of day? Other than the fact that like he's trying to help her, I guess, but he's not. He really isn't.
No.
But he shows up for his date, and she answers. She's like, "Are you the keymaster?" And he's like, "Nope." She slams the door in his face. He knocks again. "Are you the keymaster?" And she's like, "No, but he's coming real soon. I'm kind of his placeholder for now." And he's like, "Well, who are you?" "I'm Zool, the gatekeeper." Okay. So he brings her to bed, and he's like, her acting in this entire scene is fantastic. Of her like transforming into Zool, and the whole thing where she's like laying in the bed and she's like breathing really weird.
Yeah.
And he's like, "What the hell's going on?" And then she starts to levitate and then flip around and stuff. And he's like, and I just love Venkman the entire time. He's just like, "All right, this is normal."
Just be leaving.
And while all this is going on, Lewis is just wandering the streets looking for the gatekeeper. And I love he talks to the horse. He's like, "Are you the gatekeeper?" It's like, "No, but I give you a ride."
He's like, what is it? When Gozer returns, all slaves will be free. Like runs off from the horse.
Yeah,
I love it. That.
I love his run too. It's like the wide stance. He's just like run down. He like knocks into the woman, knocks her groceries everywhere.
So fucking rude.
Didn't even stop to help her pick him up.
He probably did after they said cut. He was like, "I'm so sorry." Like it's
It's
Rick Moranis. He's Canadian. He's too nice.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say he's weird because he's Canadian. I was like, with their beady little eyes, their big old flopping heads,
or with their mouths they split in half when they talk.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, friend. So the police pick up Lewis and bring him to. I love that they don't even bring him to the police station. They're like, "Nah, we got to bring him to the Ghostbusters." It's like, you guys would be able to handle this, right? It's like, sure, because Egon scans him with the PK meter and it just goes off the charts. So he goes in there. I love the whole, Egon is it's Egon and Janine. They're sitting on the couch and they're kind of asking him questions, and he's giving them the whole Zool talk and who he is, and he's got like the thing on his head. And it's fantastic. And I just like that whole situation. And Janine is like stating the obvious. "There's something really weird going on with him." He's like, "Yes." And then he gets a phone call from Pete, and this is where you go, "Pete, I understand the situation, but why did you have these drugs on you?"
Yes, I was wondering the same thing.
I can't remember what it was that he gives her, but he gives her like a drug that like knocks her out. And I was like, why do you have this? Bill Cosby. That's all I gotta say.
Yep. No shit, right?
This is when I was like, I know what is happening, and it's like, what the hell? And you want to like try to get her to calm down, but like, it's like, it would have been different. He was like, "Hey man, we got to find something to kind of like knock her out." Like this whole thing, Ray shows up, whatever. But the fact that he's just like, "I drugged her," and no one questions it.
No.
All right, we move on, I guess. Hey, Vay. So Ray and Winston, they're driving around in the Ecto-1, and they're just talking about Judgment Day, talking about the Bible and things in there.
Oh, I thought we were talking about Terminator.
World.
That ain't out yet. Fuck.
Well, 1984, the Terminator. Same year.
Oh. Dum.
He just shows up in the back seat.
He just, as he raises up, it's like,
not the right time. Get out of here.
Start hitting him with shit.
So Peckerhead shows back up to headquarters, and he is going to shut down the protective grid. And they're like, "Shouldn't do that." And he's like, "Well, I'm going to do it." I love the dude who's just stuck there, like, who has to do it. He's just the
electrician guy. He's like, "I don't know nothing about how this works."
He's just
and
like,
he keeps trying to tell him, like, "Don't
pull that
fucking do
lever,
it.
I'm going to have your job." And he's like, I just love when I think is it Egon that's just standing there next to him. He's like, "I wouldn't do that."
Yeah.
He shuts the power off, and that's when all hell breaks loose. You see the bricks start to move. You see the light coming through, and then just explosion out of the roof.
Normal stuff.
Yeah. And the ghosts are free, and we get the whole thing where you see my favorite is the one with the zombie taxi driver.
Yes, yeah, really good one.
Love that effect. The other ones are just like, whatever. I love how just nothing plays into it. Like, how did they get them all back? They just don't. They just got to recapture them all.
That's between 1 and 2. It's about the comic for that.
Oh,
I don't know.
I'm
wait for the next Netflix series to drop in 30 years.
I think the reason I like the Taxi Driver the most is because he's like the only practical like creature or
like blatantly practical.
Yeah, where it's not like the ghostly hue coming out of the subway because they're all practical technically. But the other ones are like they look like ghosts because they got like the colored hues and like the one coming out of the subway and just ones flying around, causing havoc. But then they come out of the firehouse and it's just chaos. Like the cops show up. Peckerhead is screaming and throwing his arms around. I love Egon where he's just like, it's their fault. They did this. They should be arrested. Egon goes, your mother.
Yeah.
After him. It's so good.
I like how they're getting blamed. He's the motherfucker that threw the switch.
Shut it off.
He told him not to do it.
Oh my God. So they all get arrested and they're in a jail. And the history of Shandor, the guy who built the building, comes up, and the material he used, and how he was part of this cult that worshipped Gozer,
blue oysters.
Yeah, I love though when like they're all like around this table looking at the map, and Winston, I love Winston. He's just like, why am I in here? I've only been with these guys for like 2 days.
Yeah, he doesn't. I love his character here. He's just like, I'm literally just the I'm here guy.
Yeah, I do love Pete though when they're looking at the map and there's like just a random dude in the jail cell like looking over his shoulders like, anyone else want to look around? Like,
yeah, I know, right?
Is anyone else interested in this? And Carl Winslow shows up from Family Matters. He's the cop.
Yep.
Of course, Family Matters. He was in Die Hard. But he'll always be Carl. He'll always be Carl Winslow to me.
Yeah.
And the mayor wants to see him. So we then see the gatekeeper and the keymaster meet, and Lewis finally gets what he wants, even though he won't remember it. If you know what I mean.
Wink, wink.
I do love the just awkwardness of just them being together. She just grabs him and just they hold each other.
Yeah, just throws him around.
He's just, his hair is crazy. The one thing, the funniest thing is like when they redid it for Afterlife, when they did it to like Paul Rudd and the mom. They just did the same thing. I was like, you could have changed it up a little bit. Like, what are they, Neanderthals? Like, what is this? It's literally Paul Rudd doing he's doing Rick Moranis. He's doing like the run. He's got his hair everywhere.
Like
wearing the same outfit.
Exactly. Like I get you're trying to do an homage. You don't have to copy every fucking thing from it. If you're like, hey, they're like possessed, like in the first movie. That's it. Like we get it. We got the idea. But you're just like, hey guys, here's the treat. Throw it down the hole. Go follow it. Thank you guys. We get it.
So the Ghostbusters meet the mayor. And we also Dickless shows up. I love this is one of the most iconic scenes or iconic lines from this movie is the whole because he calls him Dickless, and he's like, Dickless, and he's like, yes, sir. And he's like, is it true? He's like, yes, sir. This man indeed has no dick.
Yes.
And then they go after each other again. And then a priest shows up.
Yep.
So, Father, what do you want me to do? And he's like, I don't know. This is all up to him now. I was like, what the hell is
the
this?
church has no involvement. They're like separating themselves.
And I love Venkman's line of dog and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Yep.
And pretty much they convinced the mayor to let them help because it would please the voters. And you know what politicians love? Voters being on their side. Yeah.
And lobbyists and money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway, carry on.
Not helping, pretty much. So they get a police escort to the Shandor building, and the road opens up and it swallows them up. And
Cool effect though.
Oh yeah.
Really cool,
during the filming of the scene when they're everybody's chanting Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters. Back way when we were talking about the fact that this movie was almost called Ghostbreakers, so they were still in the dispute of trying to get the rights to the name. And originally, what they were having Ivan Reitman do was film scenes twice, one time using Ghostbreakers and then one time using Ghostbusters, just in case they couldn't get the rights. Yeah, but at some point they were just like, "This is too much. This is too. It's double the time because you got to redo the scene if the name is involved. It didn't have to be for everything because Ghostbusters isn't used throughout the entire movie." But it was during the scene when everybody's chanting Ghostbusters that I think it was one of the producers or somebody who was working on it literally had the phone. He was like, "I want you to listen to this," and it was everybody chanting Ghostbusters. He's like, so that was kind of their end of the line. It's like, we're not doing double takes. We're just doing it with the Ghostbusters, and we're just gonna have to deal with whatever down the line when the movie's done. But yeah, they get swallowed up, but they survive. I love it. It's like, I wish it just ended. Imagine that. There's just a cut of the movie where the Ghostbusters get swallowed into the street and then just credits.
Yep. Oh my god.
Gozer wins.
It does just make that cut and it's do that and then it'll be the Seinfeld credits or whatever at the end. Yeah, exactly. Please do it. Please.
What is it about these Ghostbusters? I don't know what. That wasn't Jerry Seinfeld. I don't know what that was.
I don't know where it was. I was down with it though. Keep going.
No, I'm good. Oh, I'll stop there. Oh my god. But Lewis finally gets Dana, as we stated earlier. They do the deed because that's kind of how it works. I guess they have to do it in order for Gozer to be like, she's just born from cum.
Yep.
I mean, come on, that's how it works, yes. Right? They have to sleep together. The gatekeeper and he's the gatekeeper, right? Or no, she's the gatekeeper. So her vagina is her gate. He's the key. Yep. The penis is the key. Like, come on, people. Wasn't on accident.
Yeah, absolutely. Gozer forgot the keys at home. Had to make something there.
The only unfortunate thing for Lewis is he'll never know that he got to sleep with Dana, even though he didn't really get to sleep with Dana because it wasn't Dana. But the door for Gozer opens, and they both transform back into demon dogs. They get to the top, and Ray goes out there to talk to her. He does the whole thing of I can't remember the entire dialogue, but it was pretty much so for the city of New York and all that, we tell you to leave, please. Like, it's pretty much telling her to get out. And she's like, "Are you a god?" And he goes, "No." And then of course they all get flung backwards. And I love Winston. He's just like, "Ray, if someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes."
Yeah.
So they then shoot at her with the proton packs and all that. She does some crazy flips and they shoot her. She disappears and they're like, "Well, that was easy. I guess we're done here." And then
Rip?
Yeah. And then they hear voice talking about choosing a destroyer. So it's like, clear your minds, somebody think of pretty much someone to fight. And that'll be her final form. And everybody's like, "All right, clear your minds. No one think of anything." And then, of course, Ray thinks of something because they could hear the Jurassic Park thumping of something walking. And they're just like, "What happened? What did you think of, Ray?" He's like, "I couldn't think of, the only thing I could think of." He's like, "It was, when I was a kid, we would sit by the fire and we'd roast Stay Puft marshmallows."
Yeah.
The only thing I can remember is it popped in my head. And then all you see is this, it's this kaiju moment. It's a Godzilla moment where you just see glimpses of what this is. And it's like, Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Yep.
Great. Great use of miniatures in this because it's a guy in a costume. And all miniature work, and then of course, in the scene, I love the scene where all the people are running away, very Godzilla-like. It's fantastic, and he even roars too, which is so good.
Yep.
But he's so.
And then you see the Stay Puft Marshmallows on the counter in Dana's house where the eggs explode earlier in the movie.
Yeah, so, foreshadowing.
They're there.
Yep. So that's who they're gonna fight. And I love it is like he's going towards the building and he steps on the chair. He's like, nobody steps on a church in my town. I was like, it's fine. And yeah, he starts climbing the building and then they shoot down on him and melt him. And I love his look after he gets melted a little bit. Yeah. I do love when they yell, roast him. And I'm like, perfect line.
Yeah.
Perfect. So this is when when Egon's like, hey, what if we cross the streams and it'll like quadruple the power. It'll help close the gate. And they're like, Egon, you literally told us if we cross the streams, it literally could kill us all. So he's like, well, either we try it or we die. We might die in both options. Like, who knows? But we got to do it. So they end up crossing the streams. And I love how it's just like one at a time. They don't do it all. Like, I always love that kind of way of shooting it. And they shoot the gate and it blows it up. And I love like that nuclear effect on the marshmallow guy's head. Terminator 2 would use it for Sarah Connor holding onto the fence.
This is the best amusement park ride ever. The Skininator.
Oh man. And explosion. And Walter Peck gets creamed. And I guess so it was the marshmallow.
Yeah, he does.
He gets creamed.
It's about hot dick cream, baby. Bam.
It'll take a while to clean that off. Can't use just a rag.
Nope.
He'll
go to the sock. You have to go to the sock factory. They just drop him into a giant gym sock, and it's just got this oscillator, the decuminator, because that's what we're going with.
Oh god! And yeah, it's great. It was shaving. It was shaving cream that they used for the marshmallows.
It wasn't,
and it actually like hurt him because it was a lot of shaving cream all at once. So it was like way more than he was expecting. So he kind of was like, I don't ever want to do that again. So, they all wake up and start to, they look around and see what's going on. And I love how Venkman's the only one who like barely has any marshmallow on him. Like everyone is covered in marshmallow and he's got like a little bit. I was like, was he like hiding behind somebody or I don't know. But it's very perfect for Ray or for Venkman because Venkman's a dick. So the fact that he somehow got out of something, I guess it works well for him.
Yeah.
But Dana and Lewis
after using your date rate drugs and all that fun stuff. You know?
Yeah, literally. So Dana and Lewis get broken out of their crispy dog cocoons, and I love Lewis because he's just like, Egon's is like, hey, I would like to cut a little bit of your brain and examine it. He's like, okay.
Yeah, okay.
And then I love though when they get to the bottom of the building and the EMTs come over with like a blanket. He's like, oh, I'm with them. I'm with those guys because they won't let him go over there.
Yeah.
But then we get the shot of fucking Venkman and Dana kissing, and I'm like, listen, I love this movie. I love this movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I hate this relationship. It doesn't make sense.
Shit.
Like, I understand he saved her, but also he sucks. Like, he's not a good person. So yeah, they kiss in front of the crowd, and the epic theme song plays, and you get to see them drive off in the Ecto One, and then Slimer ends it by flying at the screen, and it's over. And that's it. That is Ghostbusters from 1984. So now it's time to go around the room and talk about our final thoughts on the movie. Angela, after rewatching this movie again, does it still hold up 40 years later?
Still love it. Yes.
All right.
What?
No, I got nothing.
You got nothing?
Yeah, you're fine.
No, I still love it.
All right. Other question before Dan goes. Who's your favorite Ghostbuster of the original four?
That's a tough question. Not Venkman.
No.
Greasy finger Venkman. Give you Slippy the old Venkman.
I don't know. I like Egon just because he's like me.
You like collecting fungus and spore samples or whatever?
Just nerdy.
That's fair.
Dan?
Fuck. I actually know for this movie. I think it's a good movie. I don't think I'm as high as most people are. Like I think it's a good film. I find it some parts pretty funny, but it's just I'm not super nostalgic on this movie. I like it. It's a good film, but I'm not going to rate it as highly as you two or most every other person
Push
is.
him over there.
No, listen, this is called having a different opinion.
No.
And I'm not just doing this to have one. This is legitimately how I feel. Like I like the Stay Puffed. I love the actors. The acting's great. Cinematography, all this, all good stuff. I just think it's a good movie. That's about it. I'm just not high on this film. This is not one I go to my way to watch. It's not one I would go out of my way to watch. But
guess I'll be watching this by myself down here.
That's fine.
Who's your favorite Ghostbuster?
Hold on. I think the problem is there's not an erotic scene with pottery. That's the reason this movie just doesn't do it for me. That's exactly
Patrick
it.
Swayze didn't show up.
I know, right? I need you to massage my clay, Mr. Swayze. Anyway, a favorite Ghostbuster is that's close. It's either Winston or Ray. Because I like Winston because of like we talked about. He's like, I'm just here to work. I'm just, it's a job, but he's a cool dude. He's fucking hilarious. And then Ray feels like that balance. He's like a little bit like Egon. He's really into it, but he's kind of like a little lovable oaf as well. So it's one of those two for sure.
Yeah. I agree on both cases. Ray and Winston are pretty close. I like Egon too, but I think I relate more to like Ray or Winston.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this movie holds up big time. My biggest thing, and we talked about it during the episode, is the fact that like I didn't recall just how much of a slimy character Venkman is until rewatching it, probably say 5 years ago, just kind of watching. I'm like, man, he actually really sucks. And you're just like looking at it deeper, as we do, and like questioning why he has the drugs and, his approach on Dana and the fact that she is just like, all right, maybe I do have something for you. It's like, oh, it's my biggest complaint with some movies. Just like certain relationships don't make any sense. And then by the end, you're supposed to be like, I'm so happy for him. And it's like, I wasn't. I was kind of just like, bleh. But no, 40 years later, this movie still kicks ass. I love the effects. I love just the feeling of it. It feels like an 80s movie, and it's supposed to, but it's a movie for anybody. Like this is a multi-generational movie. My kids love it, and like I said, we watch it multiple times a year. It's a must watch. And if you're on the fence on whether or not you should watch it, do it. Seriously.
Do it, Doug.
But yeah, and I already answered my favorite Ghostbuster is Winston, primarily Winston, but I do like Ray too. Now we're gonna go over to social media and talk about Jesus, let me try that again. Now we're going to go over to social media and see what you all had to say about Ghostbusters. And we're going to start over on Twitter, as our first comment is from Puppet Masters and Castle Freaks. Let me read that. At Castle Freaks 888. So this is a podcast, Puppet Masters and Castle Freaks podcast. Very good podcast. So you should check them out. They have a story, which is fantastic. In the 1980s, around the time of this movie's release, David Margulies, the mayor in Ghostbusters' mother, worked in the bookstore of the Guggenheim Museum. My mother also used to work in the museum, would leave me with her in the bookstore, and she'd watch me. That's cool.
That's a cool tidbit. That's neat as hell.
And I said, that's amazing. And they went on to say, neat little story, I suppose, but honestly, just a small connection and reason number 473,832,184 why I love this movie so much.
There you go.
Okay.
Sweet.
And our next one is from our good friend Dustin from the Flicks and Friends podcast, who also has a big story because this is his favorite movie of all time. So of course he's got a history with it. He goes, you got time? It all started when I was 4 years old. I was taken to Universal Studios here in Orlando, Florida, and I was chosen to go on stage with Louis Tully to become a Ghostbuster. Flight suit, proton pack, hands full of slime. I was ready. Since the ripe age of 4 years old, I have been a fan of this franchise. Within the past couple of years, I finally built my own flight suit, visited the fire station, and even got to see it at the drive-in. Ghostbusters will always be in my life, and I couldn't ask for a better favorite movie. And then he also posted a picture of him during that show, which I thought was awesome. So, Dustin, we love you, man. Thanks for the story. I love
that's cool as hell.
Sharing these personal stories about the movies we talk about. I'm trying to change up kind of the way I word the things that we do for these social media sections. I want to hear people's stories about the movies instead of it just being like, I like it, because sometimes that's what you get most of the time. But I mean, we appreciate everybody who comments, but I like getting like deep stories.
Yeah, I mean, this interesting tidbits are always fun to hear.
Our last one from Twitter is from Jesse or at JMasterKing1, who says, I don't have a story, but I love this movie. And hey, you know what? That's enough.
That's okay.
That's all we need sometimes. Now we're going to go over to Instagram because I think we got a couple over there, but it's been a while.
I just hope Dustin doesn't rip my ass for this. I didn't realize how much he loves
Dustin is not a fan of Jaws, but I'm still friends with him, so it's okay.
Oh, that's tough. I'd cut him off. Just kidding.
Over on Instagram, we have one from Big Optimist 33 who says, I love this movie. I watch Ghostbusters at least once a month.
Dang, there you go.
Hey, once a month. That's more than me. I love this movie. Well, that is going to be it for our social media section of the show. Thank you so much for leaving a comment.
Yeah.
Please follow us on all the social media apps out there, or on Twitter, Instagram, Threads. Those are where I usually post the movie that we're going to be talking about. So make sure you go leave us a comment because it's really fun to read your history with a movie that we're talking about. So please participate. If you don't want to, that's cool too. Just hit the like on it. Next week, it is Friday the 13th. So we're going to be going back to the very beginning, where it all started. Where the mega franchise that it would become. It all started back in 1980 at a camp called Camp Crystal Lake. We're going to be talking about 1980's Friday the 13th. Ooh. And we got some special guests. We got the boys from Dewey Pod Monster joining us.
Hey,
big fans of the franchise, so I figured why not bring some big fans of the franchise to talk about it. And also, I just really wanted to get them on the show at some point, so it's going to be really fun getting to talk to John and Sean from Dewey Pod Monster, as I enjoy their show very much. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So that'll be next week's episode. As for everything else, you can follow us on all the social medias, as I just stated. You can follow us you can join us over on patreon.com/dissect that film, where you get some extra goodies like bonus, just bonus stuff. We got a bonus show on our highest tier called The Monster Zone that's hosted by Dan and Angela, where in September, we don't have a movie picked out yet. So it's going to be, and I'll just put a picture up.
Yes. It's what he said. It's going to be a great movie. 100%.
It's going to be great. I can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah. One of my favorites.
But also, we have some fun stuff coming up in the future. We're going to be talking about the Godzilla animated series from 1999. We're going to be going through that whole thing. That's going to be a Patreon exclusive show. So make sure if you want to be part of that or listen to that, make sure to go to patreon.com/dissect that film. Join us at any one of the tiers for any of those extra content, any of that extra content. You can participate in polls for our final movies that we cover it during our months. And yeah, a lot of fun stuff. It's the end of the
bonus you so
it's the end of the
hard,
episode,
so
and my
just
mouth is just I'm spewing garbage. So if you're listening to this going, what is he saying? I don't know half the time. But
I swear he's trying to communicate. I know he's trying to communicate to me. I swear.
But if you can't join us over on Patreon, make sure to leave us 5 stars on your favorite podcast app of choice. And if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're not on YouTube, make sure to go over to YouTube and subscribe. It's free. Like the video. Leave us a comment. We love reading your comments. It's a lot of fun. And for the final thing, I want to thank our patrons. We have Billy Joseph Jr., Corey Morissette, Andrew Schoening, Jason, Dustin from the Flicks and Friends podcast, Daniel Collins, Dan and Angela of DNA Gaming, Doom Generation, Eric Stein, Robert Stewart, Rudy5453, the Baron's Hideout podcast, Paul Jansen, Dennis, Charles, the Bucket of Chum, Official Joey C, and Movie Fanatic. Thank you all for supporting the show on Patreon. And thank you all for listening, leaving us, comments and all that fun stuff. This is a show that we do not for the likes or the popularity or whatever. It's just three people sitting down talking about movies, having a good time, and that's kind of what it's all about for us.
Yep.
I mean, if you're not having fun, then why do it? So we're gonna keep
true.
doing it until one of us dies. That's the end goal.
Is that going to happen soon, or like what the hell's going on? Do we like date ourselves suddenly? Like, this is what's going to happen.
My god! But yeah, that's gonna be it for us today. Thank you so much, and until next time, I am Brett Parker. That is Dan and Angela of Dan and Gaming. We are Dissect That Film, and we'll see y'all again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
When the something's strange in the neighborhood, we